Welcome to Chapter 4 of Graham the Gargoyle, Parsons Plateau. As he wound through the dense forest, Graham thought about his destination. His grandfather had told him all about Malcolm Parsons when Graham was only a level 4 student, and he had loved the tale. Often he would ask his grandfather to retell it to see if he would change the story. He never did. It always felt as if his grandfather had known Parsons, something his grandfather never admitted to nor denied. Graham had visited the plateau numerous times as it was adjacent to his favorite brumbleberry patch. Often he would grab handfuls of the sweet berries and sit with Ott to look out at all of northern Cascade. While he could not see the spires of New Asgard, he could spy the cliffs of Highbourne, the mountainous region where most of Cascade's deities had elected to reside. Parsons Plateau's origins lay amongst the first Gargoyle settlers. Malcolm Parsons, filled with renewed hope, had come to Cascade with his family in the Great Migration. In the mortal world he had fallen on hard times, incurring debt from too many harsh growing seasons and not enough crops brought to harvest. Cascade offered him a fresh start. He immediately fell in love with his new home and settled into farming a very fertile patch of land on the outskirts of the Gargoyle village. He claimed his proximity to Mount Prometheus gave him an advantage. His crops grew well in the rich soil near the volcano. While other gargoyles stayed close together, building next to each other to form the Gargoyle village Graham called home, Malcolm and his family were allowed to settle farther afield. Perhaps if his melons and sulk beans had not been so tasty, the council would have had him reside in the village proper, but they never asked him to do this. Graham's people were very insular, shunning most of the other races once they had moved out of the First Valley. The council prided themselves on the fact that their village was so self-sufficient. Parsons, however, sold his crops to more than just other gargoyles. He traded with the trolls, and some even whispered how the simple farmer had formed a truce with several harpy families and counted the vile bird creatures as loyal customers. As long as Parsons made his crops available to his fellow gargoyles, the council overlooked his boldness. As the years passed, Parsons became more involved in the gargoyle government. Much to the surprise of many, he eventually won a seat on the council. The farmer was fiercely loyal to his new home. He proposed ending the tradition of crossing over to Earth, pointing out that as humans had abandoned belief in all things magical, so should the citizens of a Cascade cut ties with the fickle mortals. This viewpoint was not welcome in the halls of the council. Parsons was voted out unanimously for daring to speak against tradition. The council could overlook his friendly overtures with other magical races, but not his outspokenness in regards to the sacred ritual of crossing over. Parsons spent the rest of his life minding his farm and family, blessing each morning with a warm, soulful moment of silence. As far as he was concerned, Cascade was his home and always would be. When he grew old enough to feel his bones and muscles harden, Malcolm Parsons did not cross over. Instead, he climbed to the highest point overlooking the village and the volcano next door, a nearby plateau, and extended his stony limbs to the sky. As his life left him, he paid his loving respects to his new home. Some say Malcolm chose to face away from the village as a sign of contempt, but his grandfather had a more fitting theory, one that Graham could find no flaw in. He believed Parsons arranged his body to welcome the rising sun, so he could eternally greet each morning with outstretched arms and wings, and a wide smile of contentment. While Parsons' final act was joyful for him, it was anything but for his fellow gargoyles, especially the council. They made Parsons Plateau off-limits, a no-man's land. It became forbidden, an empty final home for one who would dare to speak out against tradition. As his grandfather was quick to point out, barring a child from visiting a particular spot was just asking for trouble. The curiosity of the young had a habit of getting the best of them. Parsons Plateau became a favorite hangout for the young. The children thought they were fooling the adults with their secret hideout and gathering place, but the council knew of their trespass. The council also knew it was useless to patrol the site, a waste of resources. So it became an unspoken fixture of any child's village life. The children had a private hideout, and the adults acted none the wiser. And Malcolm Parsons? He had a home with frequent visitors or guests.